And we are recording and streaming on Thursday, January 23rd, 2025 at 1:10 p.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Tom Luongo. And again, the reason it's not on the normal Rumble Studios, I guess they're having some site-wide issue today. So back to the not important. Um, but yeah, we were just talking about, and I was saying this the other day with a friend, is certain throttles for content creation are probably going to come down in the next couple months. And my logic with that is, I mean, I remember back in 2021, like saying on this show, I was like, one day, either in a year or in 5 decades, we're going to find out that the federal government had backdoors in all the social media platforms. And we ended up finding out in about 2 years through the Twitter
Right.
files, through Zuckerberg talking about Meta with Biden, all that. I also would imagine that it is not too far out of the realm of possibility to whether or not the companies are even complicit, let's say like a Rumble or a Gab or something, that there probably is some federal, department or, like the GEC, Global Engagement Center, or some department we don't even know about, some agency that's still classified, like the NRO is classified for like 50 years. Like there's probably some social media agency that there's probably some form of throttle or algorithm that goes in and just in general for specific high value people, like huge shows, you can probably go in and really fuck with them, but also just blanket attack and everyone with a remote. I'm sure there's an AI social credit score for us on how we talk about, immigrants are raping people. That's bad. In general, I think there's probably, and but I also try not to give it too much. I do think that's probably real. I also try not to hang my hat on it too much because I think that would stifle my own growth. If I'm like, the reason my show isn't making enough money is because of the government, I'm like, that's just as bad as saying that
Yeah.
capitalism's the reason you're a fat fucking loser. Like, regardless if it's true, work harder. Just work harder.
Exactly.
So maybe the
Exactly.
CIA is fucking me. Maybe they're not. I still have to get more views. But I do think you're right. I think we're going to see. I think if you looked at everyone's analytics in a couple months, we're all gonna be like, yeah, there's a weird jump in average views, downloads, whatever.
Well, I can tell you that for me, Elon Musk announcing that he was buying Twitter
By the way, I'm gonna post the
opened
live
up the
link. I'm
doors.
not playing with my phone, posting the live link.
Now, opened up the doors like immediately, and it happened to coincide with a debate that I did with me and Matt Arrett on one side, me and Davis and Riley Wagman on the other, hosted by Whitney Webb and Off Guardian, about whether Putin was a WF puppet or not, which was just and was the easiest slam. It was the easiest slam dunk debate victory in the history of debate victories. Like it was just silly. It was a good time. It was the first time I met Matt Arrett, so he and I had a great time with it. And but those two things together, I was sitting there at 1,100 patrons, podcast doing about 3,000 hits, blah 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 blah. Dexter White's basically working for free, and then we just all of a sudden, and within a year, we tripled.
Hmm.
And I went from 6,500 people following me on Twitter to 30,000. And then and now I'm at 50, but now I'm at 58. And like after that first initial rush, then the clamps came back down again. And like so, I've gotten to I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I'm okay with it. Um, it is what it is. I know I'm an acquired taste. I probably piss off as many people as I inspire, and that's fine. There's a certain level of there's a certain level of understanding that that's the way things are. But at the same time, that the people that you have are loyal and will be with you, and as you grab them and you hold on to them, they'll stay with you. And and one of the things that we found, and the way we thought about and thought long and hard about is okay. So if we do like take advertising or we do this or we do that, like it has to be on our terms. It has to be on brand. It has to be stuff we care about, and it has to be it has to be accretive not only to our bottom line but to frankly our our audience's bottom line. And we're thankfully at a point where we don't have to, you know, scramble for it. We, it was, but it was touch and go for years, and and I'm okay with having to work harder. If I want more out of this or whatever, then I've got to work harder. And if I don't want to work harder, well, here we are, and we're good. So
Yeah, I have no issue with like the work. Like I'll do the work. I have no issue with that.
clearly,
That's why probably my favorite thing is lifting weights is because it's the most meritocracy based thing ever. There's no
meritocratic is the word you're looking
doesn't
for.
yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't doesn't matter who's in the Senate, doesn't matter what bill was passed 80 years ago. You want muscle, work harder. You fucking no, it's just there's no capital gains, there's nothing. And
Right.
it's um but yeah, it's I think we are gonna see it more, but what still gets me is like certain things like even Rumble. I'll note like the subscribers only go up. This is how subscribers go up on Rumble for me. You'll just you'll have a big episode, whatever, you gain 100, or a huge episode, you'll gain 1,000 subscribers, right? To gain a subscriber normally means there's like 100 views. And then it hits this high water mark. So let's say you just broke 10,000 and it goes up to 11,000. What I've found in almost 5 years on Rumble is then every day afterwards, the water just recedes. Go 10,999, 10,995. You can go, okay, well, big episode, people subscribe, and then they go, actually, I don't like this guy. Okay, sure. It'll do that 4 months, 10,800, 10,000. It never just gradually, you never just pick up one. It just goes down, 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 and then you get another big one, 11,500. Trickle down, down, down. Whereas on anything else, on Spotify, even on Twitter, I've been banned from Twitter a million times. Even just being back like a month, it's grown. My Twitter, which is at like 300 followers now, has grown more organically in a month than this podcast has in 5 years on Rumble, which
Wow.
is like, then I start really getting into like, well, was this just like a controlled opposition honeypot to give the conservatives a place to let off steam? Because it doesn't fucking grow. You only have a couple big, you have like a Russell Brand, a Don Jr. Everything else is like, I know people that have been on Rumble, they'll gain like 11 subscribers over the course of a year. And it's not because they have 10 subscribers. Well, it's like, well, that's 100% growth. They'll have 10,000 people and they'll be like, I've gained 6 subscribers in 9 months.
Right.
What the fuck is that?
It is weird.
It's terrible.
And you say something like that. I mean, there's a reason why we don't have a Rumble channel. There's reasons why we don't have a Subscribe Star or Substack or all these things. Is because, well, there's many reasons for it, and not the least of which is that you don't want to make it any more difficult for people to find the work.
I've had
And then
exactly 900.
and then you dilute, and if you don't, you've got to, for our business, right? You're trying to funnel people to the call to action to sign up on Patreon. That's our goal, right? It's always the goal, and making sure that you have a clean funnel into all of that. This is this thing that I get yelled at by my partner Dexter White about all the time, and he's completely correct about. So no, I'm not throwing, so no way, manner, shape, or form am I throwing
Yeah.
Dexter on the bus. He's absolutely correct about this. And so, you know, like I have an account on Rumble, for example, but I don't post anything
Yeah.
over there. I just have it so that I can comment on people's videos. So when I'm on one of your shows and
Yeah.
somebody says something either nice or nasty, I come in and I'll throw
Cut
a
their
thing in
throat.
and
Yeah.
let everybody know that I'm actually reading their
Yeah.
comments, because it's
Let them know. I mean,
Big
let them
Brother
know
is Big
let,
Luongo is watching, right?
let them know
That
you're
kind of thing. Same
watching.
thing as Substack. I have a thing on, I have an account on Substack. I just use it to comment on people's thing. But we've always been very skeptical about these alternative um, uh, platforms for this very reason. And so, and we just find we don't absolutely need it. So there's no reason to complicate things. And I find it funny. You say all of that, Tommy, right? I don't post anything new content on my YouTube channel at all, other than we use YouTube to post the patrons market reports twice a week, but I post them privately. And then every once in a while, I'll just I'll take an old one and I'll make it public and just throw something up about once a month, once every 6 weeks, something that has some evergreen comment, some evergreen quality to it. And my YouTube channel, since I stopped putting content on it, has grown more as people search out my name and find, oh yeah, Tom has a YouTube channel that's ancient and everything else, but they all subscribe. Like I have almost 18,000 people following me on YouTube. I'm going to get to 100,000 people on YouTube eventually by
Nothing.
having no content on the channel. It's going to be, that's anything less than like 3 years old. I comment on other people's videos, like, when I watched a Rick Beato video, about, I don't know, an interview with Steve Morse or whatever. And I'm like indulging my love of music or board games or whatever. And I'll pop in and I like to throw comments on things. So, I use YouTube for that and for entertainment. And yeah, I pick up people all the time, and it's funny. But I also had many an old live stream, vaporized, and I get an email from YouTube every couple of months, some video from
Take it
2017 where I was
down.
pissing off about the Jews and I was drunk off my ass like that. That got shit canned. I'm like, oh, good, thank you. Actually,
You
thank you
good.
for scrubbing that from the internet. I
I
really
meant
do
to hit
appreciate it.
that.
I meant to get rid of that, but I'm like, I'm busy, and we're running Stratholm tonight, so fuck that. Like,
I just it's so like I think I've had exactly 952 subscribers on Getter for 5 years.
huh?
I've been on
Yeah,
190 followers on Telegram for over 3 years.
Telegram.
And I know that it's like, well, what, roughly? No, 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 190. I can tell you the number because it doesn't, it's just, so, I'm like, I think Gab, I'm still at 147 because I know
Yeah,
these
like
because I've looked at them.
Gab was always useless. I mean, I was on Gab when it was in beta.
Yeah.
I mean, I made one of the first like 20,000 accounts on Gab, like back in 2016. I've been there forever today, and I tried switching over to there and making it my main social media feed.
I'm, I'm gonna pull up. Here's
I
another,
wasn't Nazi.
here's another thing that fucks with me is let's pull it up. So like, it just starts to drive me like a little, a little crazy. So last year, like every year views go up. It's like last year for Rumble, monthly views, it's just climbing. 250,000 next month, 340 next month, 509 next month, down to
Wow.
400 next month, 520,
Right.
646, 770. Then November, 190. December, 190. January, we're coming up on 190.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, you got throttled,
Huh?
dude.
What the fuck?
You got throttled.
One
I
190, 345, 192, 685. And yeah, we're gonna finish this year at 190. What in God's name? At a certain point, you start going like, who's fucking me and why? Like, just
right.
at this
No,
point, legitimately, please
clear.
just
That's
kill me.
clear.
Just send a CIA
That's clear.
assassin and blow my brains out, because that's so much less torturous than me banging my head against the wall and going like, I don't fucking, I just,
I I feel for you because I know what that feels like because I mean
yeah,
I used to cheer on Twitter every time I get a follower. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I made it from 600 to 1,000. It took me
yeah.
3 months. Like, and my shit's on Zero Hedge, right? And like every article I write's on Zero Hedge, and I pick up like 100 people on Twitter a month. I was allowed to pick up between 100 and 200 people on Twitter a month the entire time until the breakthrough. And then I went from 6,500 to 30,000 in like no time flat. And and I know, I mean, we talk about it every once in a while. I was chatting actually with a couple of um my mates. We were actually chatting about this the other night while we were playing World of Warcraft, and one of them says, come on, dude, like everybody I turned to that I know, they said, Tom Luongo is, right? They're like, oh yeah, I listen to that guy all the time. Like, how in the fuck do you only have 58,000 people following you on Twitter? I'm like,
Yeah.
obviously, because like, and these aren't free speech platforms, and I don't know if something's going to if something's going to lift here in the next few months. But we'll find out. And I also don't use Twitter in a particular way that is, I use Twitter. I don't try to optimize Twitter either. I just don't. And I'm a complete dick. Like, I don't,
So am
I mean,
I.
I'm a complete dick on Twitter. So
I know that I'm doing the right thing on
every once in a
Twitter.
while I try to rein it in, but I mean, for the most part, I'm an acquired taste.
I know I'm doing the right thing when I get texts from people either going like, I mean, when I know I'm doing the right thing when I get both of these texts from some people like, you're more of a leftist than I thought, and other people being like, Do you believe the Holocaust happened? And I know I'm right in the right spot if I'm getting both of those messages. When people are like, Tommy's a fake conservative, and the other ones are like, those are a lot of Hitler reels you're retweeting. I'm like, I'm doing God's doing God's work. That's when both sides of my family think I have issues. I know. So like, but I even, I mean, like, sure, like the ego, and then even like, I guess like the professional validation cares about numbers and stuff. For me, it's like if it just made enough money to keep doing the show, I'd keep doing the show. I'm fine with doing the
Right.
show in obscurity for 40 years. If it pays rent, I'm fine
Right.
because then I know
Right.
it's pure and it's what I want to do, and that's all well and good. The numbers mean a lot less to me. They really, yeah, sure. The ego is like, I want my, Tommy's podcast, 10 zillion subscribers. But that I'm aware that that's sort of like this ephemeral, superficial sheen on the surface. It's more about like, and it's getting there. Like, does it pay rent and groceries? If it does that, the rest is kind of like, it's nice, but whatever.
Mhm.
It's,
Now,
it's, it,
again,
there's just fuckery.
well, there is, and it used to be. I grew up in the age of the internet where it was, you know, quality sells itself, and be interesting or be ignored. Right, those were my two hallmarks for the way I would approach the internet. That was 2000,
Quality
2005,
sells itself. Be
2008,
interesting or be ignored.
2010. Be interesting or be ignored. It was, you're writing a blog back then. If you had to cultivate a blog role, you had to cultivate friends, you had to cultivate a circle, you had to know how to program your own RSS feed. You had to do all this shit just to try and run a blog. They got more than 500 hits a day, right? And or write about something that people cared about, like in my case, it was hockey. And when I was writing the hockey blog, yeah, it just, but even then I was still, what was I getting? 2,000 hits a day, maybe writing about the Buffalo Sabres. And that was literally like there's only really one, it was me and one other guy. That was it. And this is an NHL hockey team. But then again, like, I think it's just that was the way of the world then. And, um, you didn't do it because you wanted to get paid. You did it because you loved it and you had fun with it. And you paid your dues and the check was always in the mail and that was the end of it, right? So now we're in this weird moment where everything can get monetized, but you had to figure out how to get monetized without selling your soul to the sponsors and or the advertisers. At a certain level, you had to figure out a way to make enough money to produce content that was so compelling
Hmm.
that you could turn to people and they literally would say, yeah, I can't live without this
Yeah.
guy's analysis, and therefore this is the best, in my case, the best $12 I spend every month. And I get that DM from people 3 times a day, right? And it's very edifying, and I love my people for it. And it, on the dark days when it's difficult, I always remember that's what's what keeps you going, right? Now we're living in a kind of almost salad days, right? We're seeing shit happen in the first 4 days of the Trump administration that, frankly, I never thought I'd see in my entire life. It's beyond hilarious. I just watched him at Davos this morning walk in with a bag of poop and throw it all over the fucking screen and light it on fire. It was hilarious.
What's the funny thing
And
is I didn't know he went to Davos. For the first 2 seconds of that, I was like, Trump might have actually walked in there with literal feces. Like that's how surreal it is right now. It's like I don't
yeah,
even
no,
know if
no,
Tom's doing it
seriously.
like a metaphor.
Is that metaphor?
If
No.
Trump went in there with dog shit and lit it on fire, I'd be like, yeah, yeah.
What I would have done. Like, I that's the difference between Trump and I, is that I would have actually done. I would actually walked in with the bag full of
Yeah.
dog shit,
He still
and
might,
he might, if they don't listen to him, he will. Now he'll get his revenge in different ways. Like,
yeah.
um,
But
but it
things are
was,
happening, yeah.
but it looks like things are happening. It looks sincere. He walked in and he literally took every one of their agenda points: climate change, censorship, lack of democracy, oil, you name it, cars, all of it. He just walked in and said, "This is what we're doing in the United States," and I'm very angry with the Europeans, and we're going to tariff the crap out of them, and I want the war over in Ukraine. And then they started doing Q&A. So it was a version of the speech that he gave on Inauguration Day, a little bit more Trumpian, like a little bit more rambly. He wasn't really quite on script. He wasn't using a teleprompter. Um, and I was like, my wife walked by while I was watching it, and she said, he sounds a little tired. I'm like, well, yeah, his right. I'm sure that his left hand is like really, really freaking tired. Ugh, ugh. Signing all those executive orders and then having to hold up those fucking books like that after 2,000 of those. Like that's not a
So
that it doesn't look like much of a workout, but 2,000 reps of that, dude, that's a lot. Or
yeah.
500 reps of that shit, that's a lot. So the low impact workout, right? Low
Mhm.
impact, high reps, right? Low weight, high reps. And Yeah, it was fascinating. And then he started doing Q&A. Now the first one was fine. Yeah, first couple were whatever. This couple of typical, you know, things. But then he got to Brian Moynihan, CEO of Bank of America, and he gave a spiel. I don't know, they were talking about oil or some other damn thing, and then Trump, out of the blue, turns around and goes, "Oh, by the way, Brian, I want to make sure that I get you. I want you to go back to your people, and I want you to make sure that you stop debanking conservatives." He took Brian Moynihan to fucking task for debanking conservatives at fucking Davos.
That's incredible.
Okay, when he got done with that, I just shut it off. I didn't care. He didn't have to say another thing I was like, I was beaming. I had another
You,
show to do, like 10, I had 15 minutes. So I'm like, I had another 15 minutes to watch Trump patter. I'm like, it doesn't get any better than that.
yeah. And that also
Like, that's the
indicates
big
what the
one.
rest of the you go, I now know what the rest everything else he's doing. That was the canary. Okay, I know the
Yeah.
vibe.
I mean, when I say he like pointed right at, he pointed at Moynihan and told him, stop debanking conservatives and conservative businesses. That's going to end. I was like, Tucker
We
Carlson this morning did a thing on Nixon and JFK and the assassination of JFK and how that got Nixon booted. I don't know if you saw that, about a 5 minute piece this morning by Tucker Carlson about, here's the story. Here are all the facts about Bob Woodward, who
hmm
never who used to be Navy intelligence, or used to be, and then his first story for the Washington Post was the break-in at the Watergate building. He wasn't even a friggin' journalist. They made all that shit up. The CIA overthrew Nixon, the most and Carlson starts with, who's the most popular president in the history of the United States? It was Richard Nixon.
hmm
And then 18 months later, we had the only unelected president in all of American history.
They removed him in a much nicer way than they removed Kennedy, but they removed him nonetheless.
Yes, they did.
Everything about Watergate was clearly a hit. There's
Clearly,
the
clearly.
CIA is evil. They ain't stupid. They don't fucking leave all the fingerprints and shit they did on. I know guys through the show that are in Delta Force. If they want to do a clean hit, they're gonna do a clean hit. If they do a hit on me where they break down the door during the middle of a show, don't use silencers, and you accidentally see their face in the camera, then that was the intention.
Of
The
course,
intention
of
was
course.
for it to be sloppy. Yeah,
Yes.
and I think we've talked about this before. It's a much harder pitch in 2020, but now that we are here, I wish I could go back to 2020 and be like, hey, it's better that it gets stolen and they almost kill him, because in 2025 he's just he's like a final form. He is
Yeah.
evolved. Like did you see like they're like airdropping Marines on the southern border?
Mm-hmm.
That's he no fucks.
That
Like
like so
Black Hawk
so the
helicopters
other
are in like Austin, Texas, hunting down illegal. Like Jesus
dude, they're
Christ.
breaking in. They're breaking in apartment. People are turning people in like apartment
Good.
complexes, housing illegals in like fucking Boston and shit. It's real. Like,
Good.
okay, when the executive, so I got two tweets from Dexter White the other day. It was great. It was, the first one was declaring the Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and the next thing he sent me was a picture of an A-10 Warthog.
Oh yeah. Oh dude. Oh dude. It's
Driest sense of humor in all of text land is Dexter White. Um, he's like, need I say more? I'm like, no, not really.
it is it is insane. And I guess for me that is like grounds for optimism to
Of course.
on a large like so if there is this throttling, to me it
Yeah.
tells me that like that's on the chopping block too, or already was, or what it
Right.
just in general. like he says, stop debanking conservatives. You're like, I don't even need to watch the rest of because like I now know what the vibe is for this entire thing, and you can fill in the blanks. The
Mhm.
fact that this is happening now tells me like if there is any thought, and we don't know if there is, it'll be removed. Maybe it's not. Maybe the show just sucks. That's fine too. But if there is, it will be removed, and it will no longer be a question because the new Trump is just like there's nothing. It's all is firing squad to everything.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing to watch this. I mean, he's going after DEI hires. He's ending the censorship and the throttling. He's made it abundantly clear to Congress that if they think that they're going to play this game of playing games with the cabinet appointments. So now Pam Bondi, they're going to hold her approval back for 7 days just to be dicks. If they think the game that they're playing, um the old rules apply, they're out of their minds. Like they go was that I saw the video of Pelosi caught, and clearly she let this out, that she just wants to punch him and then go to jail. I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if that was like recent or not, but yeah, she's like so hopping mad. She just wants to run in, punch him in the mouth, and I know I'm going to jail, but I don't care. At least I would have punched him. I'm like, um, I can't say that.
No, you
But
can't.
Nancy Pelosi thinks that she can, and that she can then put out a video of her doing that, of her saying that with the staff, clearly with the staffer framing the shot properly. All right.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, uh, News for you, Nance. Just little tidbit, honey. He'll come after you.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not playing games. And I know that she's a ruthless woman,
Sure.
but
You don't get to where
she
she
doesn't
is.
have nearly the power that she had 3 months ago, and she doesn't know how to deal with that.
We're also seeing a Trump that I think every day, with every thought he has, where he might have some reticence, where he's like, "Well, is that a little?" I think he just thinks about, "No, wait, they tried to blow my head off in 4K in front of my son." I think that's just constantly refreshing in his like, no, no, they tried to not like a clean, sanitized kill. They wanted your head physically destroyed with blood and brain matter. No, no,
and
fuck it.
and on national television for the American people, with the high speed camera, with the Pulitzer Prize winning photographer, with the high
Uh,
speed camera at the right angle and all of that, and then they turn around and then people cannot understand that that was the setup for the hit, and oh no, this was all staged and Trump didn't actually get shot, and like, fuck is wrong with you? Like, this is the shit that really gets me angry. I'm like, how fucking lunatic stupid are you? They're that evil, folks.
yes, yeah,
He's not in on it.
yeah,
It's not that tough.
yeah.
And that, I saw a great thing on Monday night. By Monday night, no, Tuesday morning. I woke up Tuesday morning and all the fucking libertarians were running around on Twitter screaming that he hadn't pardoned Russ Ulbricht
Oh
yet.
yeah,
So I saw something this morning. I saw on my private server. We've got a funny memes channel, and somebody posted a funny meme on that channel saying, "Yeah, Trump not pardoning Russ Ulbricht for 36 hours is evidence to Whitney Webb that he's still in on it."
yeah. It's so I
It was hilarious, and I actually know I saw that on Twitter this morning, and that was getting mad move. Like, that was good.
I saw a tweet where
Mad
someone's
love.
like, they're still gonna find a way to complain, and like somebody was like, well, he didn't do it the first day, and I guarantee you, he got in a warm bed that night and didn't have to suffer like he got raged. The comment was just like, God, you're such an insufferable fucking loser. Like shut the
Yeah,
fuck up. Like shut the fuck up. And then
I know.
so like one thing people always bring up and I always entertain because you have to entertain these things forever. He's like, well, it's like he's like, do we know that like Trump isn't for sure like part of the deep state? And I don't think he is, but I think it's always good to always just war game everything forever. Just not even with
Sure,
Trump, but just in your life. You should be like,
sure.
Yeah, sure, I trust my brothers and parents, but I'll always verify. That's just a general good
Yeah, like you're
survival
allowed to.
mechanism.
Everybody's allowed to have 5% skepticism about something.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
because but you run it out. You run the scenario
It's a
out, and then
good mental
you
habit
don't
to
like
have.
right, but you don't make that your entire life. And more appropriately, what's really frustrating about all of this is the just amount of kind of arrogance and yeah, I think arrogance is just the word is solipsism. Honestly, it's this whole my version of the universe has to be validated all the time. So, like, and I've seen this version of this tweet in the last 24 hours from a lot of people, a lot of quote unquote libertarians or anti government types. And they're all like, you know, I had my doubts, but finally I'm beginning to see what I think I wanted to see. And I'm like, yeah, God, dude, come on. Like in a million years, you never thought you would see even half of what you've seen in the first 48 hours of this fucking presidency. And you're still having to like put your ego in front of what's happening.
Hmm.
Like, no one gives a fuck about your opinion on this. Honestly, no one really
That's someone
cares.
just trying to get traction or engagement.
It's just trying to, it's cope. It's
Yeah.
cope with the fact that their strategies were failures.
So
Okay.
with the, is Trump deep state, whatever, but sure, to entertain it. So my buddy asked me that the other day on the show, and I thought I was like, well, then like, what would be the indicator to, for that not to be the case? And kind of like actions speak louder than words. Where you be like, Tommy's a Fed, we'll be like, well, who does Tommy air? What do they talk about? Like, if he's a Fed, he's the worst Fed ever. Like, okay. And so, or you, like, yeah, I don't know. I've known Tom for a couple of years now, and I've seen no creeping ulterior. Like, by the way, Tommy, like, no, it's just you and a cigar just screaming about the city of London. Like, yeah, listen, like, I know what I like it, right? And so, right. So I go, what would, if I had to be like, okay, what would I look for? So the globalist agenda is to destroy sovereignty and nationalism, specifically of the United States, but around the world, but specifically the United States because it's the thing keeping away a global totalitarian dictatorship. Okay. What would then be the actions of somebody who wasn't deep state? Anything that promoted the sovereignty and borders and economy, not of the United States, but of other countries. Everyone just
Right.
take care of your own. And I'm like, that is the true north. I'd have to. Everything else is noise, and there can be distraction and misplacement and smoke and mirrors and I would say that is what I would look for with Trump to go. Let's entertain. He could be deep state. What would you look for? And I would say
Right.
doing the things that don't destroy the United States. So strengthening the borders, strengthening the US dollar, strengthening jobs, strengthening the military. And I would go, those are what he's doing. So to me, that's my, I don't think he's deep state, but even just to answer that question that I was
Sure.
asked, I would go, that's my true north. Everything else, I'm like, it's just kind of noise. And vice versa. What about Biden? Everything he did was about destroying like the sovereignty of the United States. So I would go,
Exactly.
whether he was
Exactly.
dementia or not, a puppet or not, whatever. I would go. In general, the theme is that's bringing down the United States. Trump's is everything else. I'm like, it's just kind of noise. But that's how I look at it, and it's
Yeah. No, that's
so
exactly the
very
right way of.
clear.
Yeah, that's the way I would look at it, and that's kind of what I've been doing. Like what I wind up doing is like how I decided to stop worrying and love Jerome Powell was that exact same kind of thing, right? And I'm gonna like it's actually warmer in here than I thought it was going to be this afternoon, so I need to get this off. But it was the same kind of thing. It's like, okay, can I wrap my brain around the idea of the Fed wanting to take care of itself? Let's just start from that perspective, right? Is that a rational framework? Can we make an argument for the Fed wanting
Self-preservation,
to
sure,
protect, its bailiwick, which is the commercial banking system of the United
sure,
States? Can we do that?
yeah.
Yes. Okay. What would you do at this moment in time if you were confronted with crazy Democrats trying to spend $12 trillion we don't have and blah, 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 blah? You would raise interest rates. You would start draining you start draining the offshore dollar markets. You would start trying to get control over the price of those dollars. Okay. Bingo. Now what? Is he doing that for just to feather the Fed's bed? Sure. feather the bed's nest, sure. But now the Fed is losing hundreds of billions of dollars a year. The Fed is literally losing money, which a lot of people then are turning around and saying that's why there's going to have to be QE, there's going to be this, the Fed can't continue to run a deficit, blah, blah, blah. Or is the Fed literally like taking a punch in the mouth, drilling a hole in its balance sheet in order to try and help recapitalize the United States?
Actions would
It's a
speak
good
louder than words.
question, and it's a
Actions would speak
question that
louder
we
than
should,
words.
and it's a question we should approach honestly
Mm.
and not knee jerk.
If the
Why?
Fed
Because
were
we've
there.
already assessed, because we've already looked at all the other things, and those things that we never thought could be true are true, or at least true to the level that we can falsify them. So now let's move to the next thing, and then move to the next thing, and move to the next thing. It was funny. I was like, this morning, we got done right after that moment with Brian Moynihan and and Trump. I got up and I was cackling, and I was just like, and I have those private moments where I go, God damn it, I am the best fucking guy in the world at this shit, right? And like, and my, I have to, I can only do it with my wife, but it's, and she just looked at me and said, it reminds me of The Good Place. Do you ever watch the show The Good Place with, so The Good Place is about they all go to heaven and they're in the good place and it's all a social credit system basically to get into heaven. The whole world is the whole universe is based around a social credit score of whether or not you, on balance, you were a good person or a bad person. So you either went to the good place, heaven, or the bad place, hell. And then there was also, the middle place. But the funny part about The Good Place and the way it was all set up was very funny, and it had its lefty moments and everything. It was an NBC show; you can't get around it. But what was really funny about The Good Place was that the whole thing was that they all worshiped Doug, which was the stoner guy from, I don't know, fucking Washington or whatever, who figured it all out. And like they had the picture of Doug up on the wall, this stoner who's like, this is like one day he just like in a tweet on just like laid out how the whole fucking world works. And he's like, this is how it works. And he got it right. And that we just think Doug is really cool. And Doug's in the good place.
Doug backwards is God.
Like he's like, Tom, sometimes he just looked at me and says, Tom, sometimes I just look at you and all I can think of is Doug. I'm like,
you got to the
okay,
good place.
fair, you call the shot, you make the shot, and then you got to live up to that, and then you got to stay on top of that, and then and I'll be honest with you, Tommy, for over the last couple of years, there are been significant moments where I've like looked at myself in the mirror and go, dude, are you nuts?
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you lost your fucking mind? That like this could all be freaking wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Like this could all be so catastrophically wrong. And then you wake up and you're like, and tomorrow I wake up and I find out I get that one piece of I lived in fear for like 2 years, that one piece of information that was going to make the whole thing collapse, the whole argument collapse. And I'm like, oh fuck, I better do some push-ups this afternoon because I'm going to be digging ditches in about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real. I mean, I anybody who thinks that, I'm an insufferable ass, which I am, and with an insufferable ego, which I have, understand that some of this is absolutely driven by the abject fear that I could be wrong about it all.
Yeah.
And I live in that moment every day. And that gets back to the things that we talked about, the open the show about the, how you build an audience and how you hold on to it and everything else. And I remember at one point during this whole thing, when Powell first disappointed us by not raising me by 50 basis points. And I had staked a lot of, I'd been out there for weeks saying Powell's going to raise by 50 again. This is January 2023. And he only raised by 25. And I'm like, oh shit, I may be wrong here. And I was really feeling it. And one of my people who I argue with all the time, he and I do not get along, but he's been on the server for years because he just loves the environment. And he looked at me and he said, you're making the mistake that the only reason we think you're valuable is because of this.
Okay.
And I went,
that's good.
And I went, and rare moment where I turned to this guy and I went, wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Usually he and I are at odds about everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, thanks. And then at that moment, it was at that moment that I kind of calmed down and said, okay, I'm not walking that tightrope anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know I'm not the only content creator who's gone through this in the last few years. I'm not, so I'm just, I'm not talking about this from, this is not expiating my sins or anything. This is like, I just understand that this is part of what we all go through behind the scenes. We all like put up the front of who we are, and we're selling the thing and yada yada yada, because we're all doing a version of that. But and there's always that abject terror that tomorrow that's going to take it all away from us. And then what if you get too close to the truth? Are they going to take it away from you then? Then what? I
Hmm.
mean, you literally do walk that tightrope all the time, and you're constantly assessing, where you are in the zeitgeist. And with a certain group of people, you're never going to be there's always going to be the skepticism. And well, if Luongo's so right about everything, why haven't they shut him up yet? Why does he still have a bank account? I've had that thrown at me,
Sure.
and oh yeah, and I'm like, oh, you're a bot. You work for the British government. Fuck off. And I literally just auto block them. I don't even give a shit anymore. Like,
Counter
I don't
counter
even care.
Counterpoint would be like you wouldn't want to debank the person who's 100% on target because that's a little suspicious. Wouldn't you want to let him run?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you want to not kill him?
Yeah, I mean, do I go overboard sometimes? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you put yourself out there and you walk out onto the tightrope, if you're correct about things, you will find people who will come in and behind the scenes will go, doing great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It,
Yeah, you're doing great. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're
Tim
on top.
Dillon.
You're over the target. Don't worry about it.
Tim
Just
Dillon has the
find a way to
funniest.
just find a way to not get killed. Like,
Tim
okay.
Dillon has the funniest take on David Icke.
Mm.
He goes, that motherfucker just found out how to stay alive. He names like accurately and surgically the bloodlines that have been here since 5000 BC, how they're raping children, how they use dark magic and control the world. And then at the very end, instead of saying Jews, he says lizards. That's how he stays alive. Everything else is factual. He's like Project for a New American Century. There was no camera on the Pentagon that caught the plane, and you're like, yeah, yeah. And
Mm.
he finishes with, and the praying mantises from a different star system. And you go, all right, because that's how you stay
and then
alive.
we're and then
That
we're all living in a John Carpenter movie
he
again,
goes,
right?
that's how
Like,
he gets to keep seeing his grandkids. Is he wraps it up with their bugs, like it's
yeah,
which is kind of brilliant, right? If that's
of
how
course
he's
it
doing
is.
it, just wrap it up. What
Of
you
course it
said
is.
about kind of like getting crazier and crazier is yeah, I think that's back to like the content creation as well as your own sort of mental elasticity and growth. It's like what, how every couple of years or so, like a soldier will die in training for Green Berets or Navy SEALs, Rangers, Delta. And obviously you don't want to be killing all your best men, but I've also heard it said by these guys, that's good that it happens every couple of years because that's how you know you are at like the shock wave, like the leading edge, because that's how you know that you're making the best soldiers. Because if no one had died in 50 years, you'd be like, are we really training as hard as we can? The fact that someone dies every couple of years, you go, yeah, we are. We are on the head of the needle, which means you're the best operators. I think that's the same thing. I think you have to have like your own thoughts of like I have them too, where I'll be like, am I as bad as like thinking Trump's a Russian asset? Like, am I just the other side of it? And you have to be pushing that edge because otherwise you're not interesting. But even for your
Right.
own mental growth, you have to be
Yes.
like, well, let's toy with maybe the Fed's doing something good for America. You
Mm-hmm.
got to walk out on the edge and be like, and every once in a while you get burned. You go, all right, it's not that. But you have to do that to stay mentally limber, but as well as like, well, if you're not doing that, why would someone watch your show? They would just go get the
Yeah.
same clean, sanitized thing from anything else.
Well, that again, as I said earlier, you live and die by two adages on the internet: be interesting or be ignored, and quality sells itself. And I've always said, I've come up with a few good bon mots over the years, and um, the lies are expensive. The truth sells itself. It's another version of that same thing. Like, and if you're true to yourself and you're and the truth, and so going back to what that patron said to me, he's like, your value to us is not that you came up with this idea about the Fed. The value to us is that you even thought about it in the first place, and we're willing to run that thing and then spend time doing the work to try and see if you were correct, and then apply a rigor, try and apply some kind of rigor to what is a fungible informational environment, which is difficult. I mean, in science, it's a lot. We have a lot cleaner situation, right? We can test for a particular if we have a hypothesis that's testable because we can control most of the variables, or at least all of the variables that matter, to some degree of certainty. Um, then we can set those all equal to zero and then to a constant, and then we can test and isolate a singular variable, and then we can test it and we get data. And the data either confirms or doesn't the original hypothesis. It's very clean. We have data, we have information. As long as we set up the experiment properly. If we find out that we didn't set up the experiment properly, then we got to do it again, right? And then if we did it right, then hypothesis fails, and then we have to come up with a new hypothesis, and we keep going. And as I like to say all the time, 99% of all science that's ever been produced has been wrong because it's been superseded by the next truth that we uncover, right? And but in politics and economics and in news and this stuff, we don't have that luxury. That's a luxury. I wish, politics really worked like the Gibbs free energy equation. It would be a lot easier to do. And then, of course, it would be a lot less interesting as
Mm.
well. And there wouldn't be the market for that. But I've also said many times in the past that part of what we're actually doing here is trying to put ourselves out of business by making politics boring, by getting rid of all the things that create fungible information that make the world so goddamn hard to figure out. Right. So, you know, that's also what's going on here. So, you know, as long as you keep that going, as long as you keep that mindset in mind, as long as you have that approach to it, you're really never going to get lost. I remember when I started this, I'm like, dude, I'm going to run out of material. I was saying this to myself in 2017, 2018. I'm like, I'm going to run out of material. I only got so much material. I mean, a lot of the good early material was good because it was a lifetime worth of material to then start dumping onto the market. But eventually, I'm like, I'm going to run out of material. What else am I going to talk about? And so, as you keep saying to yourself, well, you've uncovered this level of the story that you think that you understood. Now you've curated a whole bunch of new information that creates new hypotheses, that creates a new level of understanding that allows you to then, okay, let's dig in deeper into there. Let's dig in deeper into there. Let's go there, there, and there. Let's continue to build this story over time. And hopefully the story is self-consistent, or at least reasonably self-consistent. And that's what I've tried to do. And that's what I think all of us try to do. And I think if we're doing that honestly, there will be eventually we will find an audience for our work, and that audience will do whatever they have to do to make sure that we stay, um, in a position to continue to do that work.
I want to touch on the boringness of politics. I got to piss. You're gonna tell everybody where to find your stuff.
All right. So I'll hold this. So I made the mistake. I before we started, I ran out and did the whole be right back bio thing before this thing started. So knowing full well that at some point Tommy's microbiota was going to take over. So as always, y'all can find me. You know where to find me. TFL1728 on Twitter, Gold Goods and Guns, Patreon/Gold Goods and Guns. I mean, but just to continue that point, I mean, I think what Tommy's doing on the podcast, and I know how hard I know what he's feeling because I've been there for myself. Like, what do you do? How do you break through? And then how do you make this thing really work? It's a tightrope act. And I love the fact that the guy's, I'll be honest with you, he's not here. I'll say nice things about him. I love the fact that he's kind of fearless. It's kind of cool. I really appreciate that because it's a very cool thing. There aren't that many people out there, but you'll notice that I've noticed that there are people out there that the ones who are fearless, and I think there's a whole kind of group of podcasters and guests and everything. I think there's a whole group of us that are relatively fearless now. And knowing that Trump is in a position to ensure that we can stay fearless, that's what this is really about. That's what Liberation Day actually means in my mind. So I don't know, folks. It's kind of fun. So I told everybody that you had to go off to go fuck chickens,
I
and that
did.
was quick. So you're
Yeah, hey,
no
I'm a
wonder you can't
pro.
get a girlfriend.
I'm a pro. I don't fuck around, dude. All right, except with chickens. I was gonna say about like what you said about the politics thing.
So
Like,
you're good. So all right, now I get to make a really bad joke. You're the goat because goat sex is very very brief.
Allahu Akbar, and like, but thinking about like the craziness of, and there's really nowhere to go with this. And it's more of just a side comment. There is something that just like the grift industrial complex of political outrage on both the left and the right. And I see it on the right because I'm on Rumble. The front page is always it's just like damn Bongino, 9 million views an hour, and it's like Kamala really showed her face this time, and everyone's like, "Ah," and I'm like, yeah, it's a good grift. You
Nice.
get fucking fat paychecks, but like, I put a revolver in my mouth live if I have to do that every day. Like, I don't mind covering politics. I think
Right.
dude, some of it's fun and. But I'd rather like get down to like what we're talking like military movements and resource extraction. But when it's just like man, if Democrats, if they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. It's like, dude, blow your brains out. Like some of the shit's just so bad. And
Well, it's yeah, it
I
is,
get it.
man.
It's a fucking, but it's just that's like a self-refilling glass though. There is a business
Yes, it
side to
is.
that where it's like that'll
Really is.
never end. You can take those headlines, but it also has no staying power and any shelf life because you can't go back and watch a show a year ago about the evening news. Nobody gives a shit what was happening on January 23rd, 2024. That's an old news
No.
story. Nobody cares about the markets. Nobody cares about, the futures. Nobody cares about a blurb from a politician. Everything's changed now. Versus if you have like a deeper kind of discussion about larger themes or even about books and history, there's a little more staying power. You can go find a great
Mhm.
documentary on the space shuttle and you look on YouTube, it's like uploaded 13 years ago. You're like, this is fantastic. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
so
find shit like that all the time. It's
all
great.
the time. So that's where I try to like weave in and out. I'm like, sometimes it's good, sometimes you get a ton of views, but like every day to have that sort of just outrage about like the radical left did this, I'm like, it's, I don't think I could do it. There's really no
No,
point
no.
to
And
me at this point in my
I'll be
career.
honest with you, Tommy. Like, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm in the we're in the I'm in that business kind of having to react to everything that's happening on a regular basis, and and I've when big stuff happens, right? There's always that hue and cry, especially now on Twitter. I get 15, 20 people going, Tom, are you gonna do a space this afternoon? We got a whole bunch of shit to talk about. I'm like, I lived that life during Brexit, right? Where everything that happened during Brexit, like I was live streaming 2, 3 times a day. It was crazy. Um, and that's just comfort food.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That's what it is. And it's not a steak. It's macaroni and cheese, right?
The TV
It's
in the background at the hotel. That's
yeah,
you just don't want to be alone.
yeah, you don't want to be alone. And I need, they need you to be there to just, patter away and help them get through because they're
Which
not
is
sure what it
fine.
means, which is perfectly reasonable. And I'm glad that there are people out there that are willing to do that kind of thing. But and I just think I produce enough content on a weekly basis that you got more than there. If you need more fucking me, you're well. Aside from the fact you need to get outside, because seriously, dude,
You need
like
to see a
my
professional.
wife
You need to
doesn't
see
want
a
that much.
professional.
Doesn't want that much interaction with me. Um, and but I'm just it's important to just you know you want to always stay like one step ahead, and you're not always going to be able to have an opinion about things, right? And when you're trying to build an audience, right? Really build an audience. Yeah, you got to be there all the time. You got to be there every day. Like you got to write every day. You got to podcast every day. You got to work 13, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can't get away from it. And then once you get to a point where so over time for me, I did this kind of at first subconsciously and then eventually consciously. I realized what I was doing, which is that no, I'm going to step back. I am now the guy who's always, quote unquote, one step ahead of everybody else. And so many are, that's kind of the niche, right? I'm like, great. I can't be that guy 24/7.
Hmm.
I will explode and then my adrenals will give out and then I'll be in a hospital. No. So, you at a point you just say you just take a make a conscious effort to step back and go, that's I'm going to take some time. I'm going to let this thing play itself out. I'm going to cultivate the patience of knowing I am not part of the outrage cycle of the incident for the most part. I use Twitter for that.
Yeah.
And then the content is going to happen 72 hours later. Now, yeah, did I call up Dave Collum Tuesday morning at 10:30 and say, "Hey Dave, when can we do a show?" And he's like, "Well, I'm free most of this week." I'm like, "Well, dude, I'm gonna have nothing on my schedule this afternoon. Why don't we do a rip?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll be in the room. I can be ready by 11:30." I'm like, "Great." Finished up what I was doing. We did the rip. I got it out there. So we had a hot take on what was happening. It's a rare thing that I do anything like that anymore.
Yeah.
And even every once in a while, I'll get something like that. I'll get an invite onto a show like that, but I try not to because we're not going to get our best work in that first 24 hours. It's going to take 48 to 72 hours to let things develop because we're definitely at a moment now where the psyops are so sophisticated that they're meant to create
They
the
have first
wrong take in the
contact.
first 24
Yeah.
hours and then you
They're
know
brilliant. No, they're very
yeah, they're
good.
very, very brilliant at
They're
it,
very well
and I've
packaged. Yeah.
learned,
Yeah.
and that's really distressed me about what my role is then, because I can have the hot takes like in the private server, we can like chat about it and whatever, and that's fine, but I don't have to actually produce content for the people on a regular basis.
I wonder if Trump has any like professional respect, like, before he has the military round up and like execute these people. He's like, by the way, that was a great psyop. Like, just he's like, hey, man to man, that was great. You had three stages of implementation. You could have done it better, but I respect, like, I do have to
I,
kill you.
I respect I respect that, and now you're going to jail.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, you're gonna die, but they're like, that was the fucking that the COVID BLM 1-2 punch. I mean, hey,
sure.
where it's
Hats off to you.
yeah,
Now you're
yeah, I'm gonna pull the string, you're gonna break your neck. But I mean, hey,
yeah, exactly.
game recognized game. I
So
hope
do
there
you?
is like some professional courtesy. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
again, would you like a blindfold and a cigarette or just a
yeah,
cigarette?
you kind of shake their hands, you're like, that wasn't half bad, and you silence her to the head. But like, yeah, I do. I'll do the instant shows really only now when it's with my buddy Dale, who's in Delta Force. He's like the preeminent assassin on the planet. He was the youngest guy ever in Delta Force. Average age is like 35. He was in Delta Force at like 22. He's fucking crazy. He's in his 60s
Wow.
now. Yeah, wild. I'll have him on. Like,
Hmm.
day of the Trump shooting, he's also, amongst other things, a car bomb expert. So like the day of, like the Cybertruck thing going, I'll do those hits.
Sure.
And those are because like he is the United Healthcare Alliance assassin. Dale's the first one to be like, no, dude, that was good, that was bad. This is how only he can say like, no, you closed the gap, maybe say his name or something. And I was like, that's cold, but like he knows these things, and I'll do those really only with Dale. I'll do, and if it's
Hmm.
like a bigger kind of, I don't know, something in the milieu. Honestly, I'll do like the bald ones, and that,
Hmm.
but even then, it has to kind of reach like a critical, like where it's so big to
Yeah.
where I'll be like, yeah, okay, like this is kind of wild. Like we'll do, whatever, the assassination, or like Trump won the election, or like
Mhm.
I'll do those. But even those, 6 to like 8 weeks. But like the daily, just you gotta jump on. Can you hear? Did you believe Nancy Pelosi? Like to me, like what you told me, like that was enough. I heard like Nancy Pelosi sit around and punch him. I'm like, yeah, what a dumb bitch. And then like that's it. It just kind of
Let's
step
move on.
in, out, and it's I don't. And then but then I always think like maybe I'm the idiot. I think like maybe if I went and talked to one of these people that has these like engagement bait shows or Twitters where it's like the radical left, I think part of me would like to think that if you talk to you, they'd make sure like your phone's off so you don't catch them. They'd be like walking in the other room. They'd be like, I know this is all retarded. I know but I paid off my college debt and this house. I'd be like,
Mhm.
oh, it's what they're like. I'm gonna go out today and I'm gonna tweet, you know, AOC should still be a bartender, and a bunch of boomers are gonna retweet it. Look how much money I'm making. I'd be like, that is a fucking lot of money you're making. They're like, I'm putting my
Yeah, it
game
really
up.
is, isn't
I'd
it?
be like,
Yeah.
oh, and they'd be like, and by the way, I run this account too, and it's like an anti-orange man account. I'd be like, oh, I'd kind of be like, all right, I'd get, and then like, I'd hope that they would have like a deep philosophical mind. They'd be like, no, I agree with you and Tom, by the way, about the Fed potentially taking itself down. I mean, this might be like a counter operation against the global. I'd be like, and you're paying your rent. They'd be like, yeah, you're trying to pay your rent with like honesty, which is tough luck. Like part of me is like, Fuck. Maybe they
Yeah, no,
pat me on the head. They're like,
it, it- yeah, it was funny. For years, like, um, Alex, Christopher, and Mercurius, and I, and others, we toiled in, really relative, real obscurity, working the edges of it. And it was so, you could tell, we were all just really struggling. And then I watched them break through. Um, and, and just the sheer hard work and everything else. And I watched them break through. And I'll tell you flat out, I had like not one moment's, you know, um, envy, not one. I was so happy for them, knowing full well, or jealousy or anything else, not one moment, because I know how hard it was for them to get that off the ground. The
mm,
Duran, like, and they don't even talk about most of the story that even happened pre that. Like, and this goes back to 2011 and 2012 with these guys. They've been working their asses off for years, and I know how hard they've worked. And I'm like, I watched their success, and I just sat back and clapped,
yeah,
like, privately. I was like so happy for them. Like, it's so okay. All right, they're set. They're stable. Cool.
yeah,
I hope I get stable one of these days. That kind of thing. It was, if there's hope for them, then there's hope for me. It's kind of the way I looked at it. And you just have to, like, you can't. And I've been, I've had people, like, get angry with me in the past and say you're just jealous of other people. Like, no, I'm not. Like, dude, this is who I am, and you can't handle it, and that's just the way it is. And get the fuck over yourself, and that's that. Like, it's there's nothing more than that. You and I are just disagreeing, and now it's not. And just because I'm disagreeing with you does not make it a character flaw on my part.
mm.
Okay, we are disagreeing, and we're allowed to. It's called, being human. Fuck nugget.
It's like the,
Um,
it's like the. By the way, I know we didn't. I don't think we talked beforehand about it. I don't know if at any point you have to go. Just let me know because I'm gonna keep rambling. But it makes me think of like, I don't know if you've ever seen that meme where it's like entrepreneurs are the only people who will work 80-hour weeks so that they don't have to work 40-hour weeks.
mhm.
And and I do think there's a lot, like, 'cause at first you're like, why would you do all of this if the reward wasn't like a zillion times the normal set? And I used to think that way, like, yeah, no, I'm only going to do the podcast because I think the upper ceiling is 1,000 times what I would have made if I became a doctor. And I still like that idea, and it's fun to be like, yeah, well, what if? But I also get a lot more of like I started playing a couple days ago Kerbal Space Program, and I only watched like
Oh,
the initial tutorial on literally like how to place things, and then I didn't look at
mhm.
anything else. I'm not playing the campaign. I'm not watching anything online. And it's because I'm not trying to beat the game for the sake of beating the game. I enjoy the learning process of just like, okay, like this, like, and then I'm like, oh, you can add another. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, and now on my own, like, kind of be like, oh, this is a real issue. You have to break it off, and it's like, oh, that's staging rockets, and like, sure, if I was trying to do it as quickly as possible, I'd watch the tutorials, I'd watch like a 30-minute thing on like rockets, and then like try to beat it. That's not what I'm trying to do. I do it at the end of the day, and I enjoy. It's like sorting like dishes or laundry. It's just kind of a peaceful and
Mhm.
meditative. And so I'm playing it for no other reason than to just play it.
Mhm.
And doing and like finally getting something to like take off and like get to orbit. There is a moment of just like, yeah, that's nice. And I realize now that like sure it'd be great if there's like a bigger value to it. But even with the podcast now, I'm like, even if I barely make enough to survive, there is a feeling of like pushing away from the dock in a shittily made boat. But you go, I made this. This wasn't a mail order kit. It's not inflatable. This isn't my friend's boat. I made this out of
Yep.
bubble gum and a tent and a tire and like half a
Uh-huh.
log. And you go,
Yep.
this is kind of fucking I made. And there is this is great. And I think that's how I look at this a lot more now. Is like when I
Yeah.
see
No.
people start to get views or subscribers, I'm like, that's the gold. Is you go, I did it. Like I did it.
Yeah. I can tell you, when I started this, I had very few other options, right? I got fired by Newsmax in April of or March of 2017, and I didn't have a fallback plan. I didn't have any income. Um, and I spent that summer trying to figure out how to, go forward and recreate what I had. I knowing full well that what I had there, if I could get, you know 20% of that with getting, 90% of the revenue, as opposed to what I get from Newsmax, which is far lower percentage of the revenue, then I'll be fine. And my goal, like my initial goal, was get to the point where I could do this for, and have a middle class income,
Hmm.
which at the time was, we're just basically replaced what I was making at Newsmax, about 60, 70 grand a year. Like nothing to, you know,
Sure.
nothing to write home about. Can I keep my house? Can I keep my family? Do I not? I don't have to move to Mexico and live, that, blah, 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 blah. But that was a sincere consideration. And that was the early motivation, is to get to that level. And at some point, it started to become something far bigger than that. And I didn't realize it was happening because I was so focused on, like, we have to get to the point where this is stable, and
Hmm.
and I realized at some point, when I was getting the feedback from the patrons of how important I had become to them. And I only say that because I've had so many of them say this to me, or when they meet me, and and I and I'm like, oh shit, I now have a real responsibility to a large group of people. And I'm like, okay, it's not what I intended at all, but okay, like, that's where this is. Like, at this point, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't dream of stop doing what I'm doing, what I do. I adore what I do, right? It's the greatest privilege in the freaking world, without a doubt.
So it's
If it
so
goes
much
away
fun.
tomorrow, it goes away tomorrow. No regrets, no nothing. It'll be most likely my fault, yada, yada, yada. Um, and, but, you know, once you realize that you are in service, and that goes all the way back to articles I used to read by Gary North years ago about the hallmark of the free market, is that it's service. You don't get shit in this life if you do not provide good service to people. The problem with the government, of course, is that it does not have to provide service because it's extracting its revenue at the point of a gun,
Hmm.
you know, and
It's a great
just
grip.
keep that humility in mind, understand it, cultivate it. Never let your ego get away from you. Stay on target and realize that you have a responsibility to the people that you have curated, and you take care of them and they will take care of you. And, like, okay, and you can't do this alone. And I say it all the time. I give my patrons and my community just an unbelievable, I give them all the credit in the world, because they're out there every day, jazzed to go out and talk about the world and talk about what's going on and curate the stuff that they think I'm going to want to hear, and what I think is important. And they know that I'm there to, if they've got a crazy idea that they want to test out, I'll, you know, if they tag me, I will give them my opinion on it. Maybe I think that's bullshit, or I think I don't have any, whatever, but at least they know they have access. And, for whatever level of comfort that gives them, great. I'm happy to be of that service,
Hmm.
without a doubt, and just keep that in mind. And then I get to go back and I look back at it, and I said to, Camille at one point, my wife at one point, I said, I mean, we built our own house. I used to be really proud of our house. Like, that was the thing I had done in my life that I could look out and I go, yeah, that's my mark on the world. It's like right over there. Right. Nothing I have done, I am proud of my life, other than maybe my daughter, am I more proud of than Gold Coast and Guns.
Hmm.
And it's not me, it's what it represents to everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me motivated every day. This is not a numbers game to me. This is my, this is the thing. This is the reason I honestly believe at this point that, like, this, whatever, motive force there is in the fucking universe, this is what I'm supposed to do. And at some point, someone will tell me that this is not what I'm supposed to do, and I'll move on with my life.
Hmm.
But for right now, this is what we're doing. And we're going to do it until the job is done, for whatever, small or large value of the word done you want to ascribe to it. And we'll go from there. So, Liberation Day, dude, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. No, I was
What
gonna.
do
Yeah.
you, I want to hear I've already given out, like, what I
Yeah. No,
thought
I was.
about it.
No, I was
What
gonna
do
say.
you think about Trump on Monday? I think,
No, I was. I was gonna agree with you. Be like, I'm still in that sort of like numbers paranoia to like pay the bills, but I can also feel
Mhm.
past that. I'm like, now I'm like my definition of success used to be it has to be the biggest podcast in the world. And now I'm like, if this pays my bill, like I'm very proud of what it is and the talks I have. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I'm like I'm okay with that. Um, yeah, I mean, it was so like I edged and my sleep is all fucked up. So Sunday night I was like, I'm just gonna kept playing video games and went to bed early. Woke up, I went to bed at like sunrise. Woke up, saw like 5 minutes of the inauguration, went back to bed. Woke up again at like 8 p.m. and opened Twitter, and all I just saw was Elon doing a sig heil. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, this is fantastic. I don't even know what happened, but that's all I saw was like, hey, Trump's in office. And I was like, I've left his friends are all freaking out. I'm like, it's nothing's gonna happen. And I like, went to bed, and 8 hours later, I was like, all right, well, richest guy in the world. I'm like, maybe that jumped up, like jumped kind of quickly. Yeah, it seems to be that he's really gone kind of what we just talked about, actually. It kind of seems like now it's like the first term was like the numbers game. You got to be a president. Like, wow. Now it seems like he's going for his mark, be it
Mhm.
literally like acquiring new land for the United States or just fucking over the entrenched power structure in a way that's never been done before. It seems like now he's going for legacy more so than any other time I've ever. Not that I have some long life, but like more than any other time I've seen Trump, it seems to be now that it's just almost automaton. He's turned into like Patriot ass fucker 9,000. Like he's just like his eyes are just like red, white, and blue lasers now. That's what it seems, and that's kind of what it feels like. And it's honestly, I'm excited. Like
Yeah.
aside from me truly believing that he's the funniest man in the world, like better than any
Right.
comedian, I legitimately think he's the funniest person in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty funny.
It is kind of, it's actually kind of, it's crazy. And somebody posted the other night where it's like, Pepe the Frog, and he's got like a mag. No, no, it's like a Berenstain Bear, and it's just sitting in like a rocking chair in like a cozy living room, and he has a MAGA hat on, and he's just falling asleep as the fire crackles, and he goes, "This is what it feels like right now." And I'm like, "That's how it feels like." Every night, I'm just like giddily, like going, like, "What did he do now? What did he do now?" And it's like Black Hawk helicopters are encircling Austin. And I'm like, this is the best day ever. And it's just
Yeah.
that's how I feel right now. It's just
No,
like,
it was. Yeah. No,
yeah, that's
I
how I
get it.
feel.
Like
It's like a
we were,
liberation
we,
year.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I play World of Warcraft with a couple of patrons and whatnot, and we have a small guild, and we were and during a lull in the action, like somebody we were like running, I don't know, Zul'Farrak or some fucking dungeon the other night, and I think it was Zul'Farrak. And somebody had to get up to go to the bathroom. I'm like, oh, cool. I get so it's been 10 minutes. Let's go see what Trump is like. Let's see what else Trump has
Oh yeah.
fucked up in the and awesome thing he's done in the last 10 minutes for us to talk about. Because I mean, the dungeon is like easiest thing in the world. We've run it like 100 times. It's like that's not the, that's on autopilot. It's like we
Yeah.
were just sitting there chatting about cackling about everything that was going on. And then like, oh, look, he added this onto the list. I'm like,
Yeah.
and that's what we did. And there was just this level of like kind of calm watching it all just be like I don't know. It's really weird. I've been living with this dread since I'm 9 years old that America's on the wrong path
Yeah.
and that something is fundamentally wrong with the way the universe operates. Um,
And then
I
we're
feel
just
like
start to
we're in
feel
a
that.
different we're just in a different fucking world, dude, and it's the coolest thing. And we're watching shit happen that you know like I was on with just before I did this one, I did the Capitalism with Danny, and I relayed the story about when we first started to do the live streams. I'd have a scotch and my Periscope in my phone, and we do Periscopes, and then eventually I turned it into like YouTube live streams and whatnot. And by the way, me live streaming and drunk is not a good idea because I'm just never. I'm like, why is my channel not growing? Maybe it's because you're just like awful.
Blocked.
Um, and you're just not fit for human consumption. That used to be the line, like, I'm not allowed out of the house. I'm not fit for human consumption on a regular basis. But you do the well. If I won the lottery thing, it was well, okay. So what would you do in your first day in office? And I'm like, I used to, give that story out all the time. It was always the, well, I'd have the jumbotron up behind me, and we'd have a live satellite feed of the Spetsnaz, who I'd already called Putin and told them to go in and wipe out all the CIA drug operations in Afghanistan, and we'd have it live streaming um, during the inauguration on the jumbotron as all these guys were getting picked off by Russian Spetsnaz. That was my power fantasy, right? Like, oh, and by the way, we've done, and they're all and everybody in the rotunda, yeah, just go quietly, because you're all getting arrested right now. Come on, bring them in,
Yeah.
and on pay-per-view, and because we need to balance the budget. And I'm like, well, we're not in Afghanistan anymore, so Trump's doing everything else I want him to do and more. Like, because that was 2016, 2017. Shit was tame back then,
Mm.
right? I mean, relative to where we are now, shit was tame. These people used Trump's first election to drive half the country fucking insane. Then they stole the 2020 election and then made the world fucking crazy and then
Mm.
turned the world upside down. They did this in 8 years. If watching him dismantle it all in like an hour, like
Incredible.
I'm still like trying to process it all.
It's kind of like a battered woman kind of Stockholm syndrome. Where part
Yeah,
of
oh
me,
yeah,
it's like hard for me to accept that things might just get better. It's I mean, for the last 4 years I kind of just started to accept it. I'm like, well, it clearly seems that they're just wrapping up one party rule. They're wrenching it tighter. Eventually, somewhere down the road of escalation, be it a year or a decade, at some point it will down the road will be like content creators that are against the state. And I just kind of was like, well, I don't have any military experience. And I just kind of came to peace with like, yeah, I imagine at a point I'll just be killed. And I just was like, it's what it is, and I wish it wasn't, but other than that, I've had like an awesome life. I was born in 1990 America. Like, hey, maybe this is just it, and I'm grateful for what I've. I really started to just kind of come to peace with that. I was like, because
mm,
it seemed like there were no guardrails. If the election was stolen, then every other election would be stolen. It was just doesn't take too much brain power to go. It's gonna graph this way. Maybe it'll take a little longer, but this is where it's going. And I just was like, I'm gonna go until the wheels fall off. Like I'm gonna enjoy it and whatever. So first, it's like there's just like kind of like a relief. And now
mm-hmm.
it's also turning into like this weird being optimistic. Like, what if it did turn around? Like, what? Like, it's kind of like we said about the Fed. Like, yeah, I get it. The Fed's bad. Like, I understand all the pessimism. This is how the world will end. It's World War III, or it's going to be martial law. And you're like, okay, but for shits and giggles, what would it look like just as a fun sitcom? What would it look like if it got better? It'd be like, well, it'd probably be Trump just going balls to the wall. And like one by one, there just be these things that just stopped fucking you over and stopped purposely handicapping the country. And not even
Yeah.
in some delusional, oh, we're gonna build utopia. No, not that. Just in general, like simple shit. Like there's a border now. How about we're gonna do that? There's a border now. You can't have. We're gonna get rid of affirmative action. Just
Yeah.
little things. No
No,
more. Hey, you're allowed to go be gay. That's fine.
you're gonna
But
you're gonna you're
we're not flying the tranny flag at the military bases. And you're just kind of
yeah.
like, huh?
I can have incandescent light bulbs again.
Yeah.
I had to buy like a 5 year supply of incandescent light bulbs in order to have light that doesn't drive me crazy in my house. And they were getting really close to they were disappearing from the market. Even the shitty ones, that the kind of shitty half incandescent bulbs that they currently have. Like I bought a bunch of those, and I live in the lightning capital of the world, so we blow light bulbs like all the time in my house, right? And I'm like, I just want light bulbs that work. I just want a washing machine that washes my clothes, and I want a toilet that gets rid of my shit. Can I
It's all
have those three things? And that is a kind of Stockholm syndrome. I'm getting to get those things back. But no, it's not just it's not just optimism. It's that you're getting okay when you're depressed. The hardest part when you're depressed is you don't know how to get started again. You
and
want to
yeah.
change. You don't want to be miserable, but you don't
You
have the
don't even know how
ability
to
or
start
the
it.
get out of that. And you need someone to pick you up by the scruff of your neck and take you to the gym or take you to the bank and go get a credit card, or go and take you to the grocery store and not buy and audit you and refuse to let you buy Coke and potato chips, and you're only going to buy meat and cheese and vegetables or whatever. You shouldn't eat vegetables because they're bad for you, but you know what I mean. And just and enforce and help you and enforce some discipline and get you out the door. Everybody needs that. It's how why alcoholics have a sponsor within AA. It's why. It's all variations on addictive personality, addictive behavior, and depression. And we're all feeling a form of that. And you know, um I didn't intend to be the guy who was trying to, like, oh, by the way, maybe the cavalry's coming over the horizon guy. I didn't want to be that. I'm just, I love being a black pilled asshole. But if I didn't see it, I would have said we're fucked, and that would have been that. But I was seeing other things, and I'm like, no. We as humanity do not have to go gently into that good night because Klaus Schwab told us that we had to. We don't have to do this. And meeting certain people along the way and inspiring other people, coming up with ideas that inspired other people to go, oh, by the way, you're right about that. And here's how you don't even know how right you are. And then funneling information my way that I could then help inform what it is that I've been presenting to people, and the whole Fed thing and the banks and everything else. Right. And like all of a sudden it just becomes an inspiration. And you realize, oh, that's your responsibility. And so my goal has been not to sugarcoat anything, but to give it to you straight that here's how it's going well. And then here's what their counter moves are going to be to try and stop us. And then. But this is our path to getting to where we are today.
Hmm.
And that in and of itself was positive enough for enough people to go, okay, I want that world that Tom's talking about. I want that world. Like, yeah, so do I. So, and then they made it happen. Not because I said it, but because they were already feeling it anyway. And it was just happening everywhere. And and you could see it everywhere. And as long as you were open to the idea of it, we still had all the power. We always had the power. They just kept telling us that we didn't.
I think you said it on one of the Baldwin show where you're like QAnon is the subconscious instinctual feeling that we all have that like life doesn't have to be this bad. Not some delusional, let's all hold hands. You're like, we all have this feeling of like, doesn't it kind of feel like why is it so, why do we just accept that like 50 IQ cannibal Muslim retards are just gonna stab kids? Like, why are we, does this have to be? I'm not saying it's all gonna be, we see, you gotta work, life is suffering, you gotta work, there's still death and tragedy, I get it, but like, can't you just have like a border? Can't you just like not gut every manufacturing job immediately? Just like, but what really helped me was kind of before he won the second time was just it really started to dawn on me just how little it was I wanted in life. And I don't mean that in a pessimistic way. I meant like,
Hmm.
man, I kind of miss when politics was just a thing that you kind of saw in the news every once in a while, instead of it being like vaccine mandates at gunpoint and we're gonna rip your kids' dicks off. Like, I kind of miss it when it was just like sound bites. And like, man, as much as I'd like $1 billion and a private jet and all, like I would kind of, it started to dawn on me when I started thinking about like, because it was like the special forces and Delta Force guys telling me like this is the cascade of things. This is how it goes. I know because I've done this in other countries. Like this is where it ends. And like it went from that to being like, man, it's kind of a gift to just grow old. And like that's what
Yep.
I think it's made me appreciate is just like everything else is like is icing on the cake. Like sure, like justice is great, and and American exceptionalism and all that. We're going to Mars and all that. It really made me realize how like man, most of what I want in life was just the the luxury to have to have a job and to struggle and to grow old and to just watch the like man that itself is to like not die in a fucking faggoty Marxist revolution is itself a
Let's
good film.
so the goal for season 2 of the Trump show, Tommy, is to upgrade you to then wanting to
Well, and then well, it's like getting out of
now
depression. The
that,
first thing is like to just not want to kill yourself
yeah,
every day, and then you
right.
go after maybe a year of getting better, you go and then you start doing a little like, hey, maybe get a new couch instead of that old ratty one. You're like maybe you don't have to spend a lot of money, but maybe start wearing a polo instead of a muumuu. You're like, oh, and you start to once you get rid of the existential crisis, you start going, maybe maybe I could be a dad one day.
Yeah,
You
that's
go,
where I was going with it.
and then
Yeah.
the sun starts to come out, and you go, you first got to get out of the depression dungeon, but then you
Yeah,
go,
yeah.
like I've now been for like a little over a week. I've now been sober for a year. I'm like, oh, like that's a little thing, and now I'm like, maybe if the podcast makes enough money, I might, maybe I'll get a dog, and it's like, just this little like. And I think that's where we are now, where it's like the first things is just like, hey, I'd like it if we
Yeah.
just didn't have no border. And then it's getting a little bolder. You're like, maybe America is awesome. How do we get back to like fighter jets over like the Talladega fucking or whatever, Indy 500,
Yeah, over the
Sam
yeah,
Anderson?
exactly.
How
The
do we get
Blue
back
Angels
to
over the
that? You
Talladega
go,
Raceway. Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
like slowly, the sun's slowly rising. You're like Trump, what he announced $500 billion investment in AI. You're like, wait, what happened to like America? Fuck yeah. Like, yeah, wait. It's not just a guaranteed thing that it's like it's China's turn. Why can't we be like fucking Uncle Sam slash Hulk Hogan
Why
slash
can't
fucking
the why
like,
well the thing is, why can't we look, they told us for years, don't look up.
yeah,
Look at your toes. Life is less. They tried
you're a
to
burden, you're a
tried to
cancer,
yeah, no, you're a virus. This is you
carbon
have to pay your
footprint, the
carbon
white
debt.
man.
You're like
Yeah.
carbon. Look, the whole fucking carbon debt thing is this Catholic original sin doctrine on steroids. It's
Yeah.
awful.
And it can't be
You're
absolved.
you're born poor, you're born
You're a
evil,
carbon
and
based
you
life
can't pay it
form.
off, and you're never going to be able to pay it off. Why would you fucking believe that? And why the fuck would you believe that bullshit coming from the richest fucking people in the world who have stolen hundreds of years of resources from the entire fucking world? Because that's the ones who are telling you that's bullshit. Fuck you. Grow a pair. No, you're sitting there in your fucking subsidized fucking learned helplessness, and here's your cookie made out of fucking hydrogenated soybean oil and GMO and fucking Roundup laden wheat and fake sugar and high fructose corn syrup. It's not even a real cookie. It's not. There's not a goddamn thing in it that's real. It's a fake cookie designed to not. Cookies are already bad enough. They hate you so much they won't even feed you a real cookie to destroy your health. They want to accelerate the process because then they can sell you the drugs at the end of your life after you've been a wage slave to them and a debt slave to them the entire time. That's the world you live in. And you have every goddamn right to be as fucking angry about it as I am. So light a fucking stogie on the air. Like, I know that I'm over the target, by the way, because now they're going after me. You'll get comments under podcast appearances, and I see this. I'm seeing this more and more now. Oh God, he smokes a cigar on camera. That's so disrespectful. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah, it's
I
that.
do it on purpose. I started smoking cigars on camera on purpose because I'm a dick and I don't care and I don't respect your authority. And that's how we win.
And it is kind of like going from the depression to then start the positive. Like you do kind of see it with like RFK is almost a manifestation of that. It's like, the first thing is like you
Absolutely.
have to have a border. We have to stop giving $80 trillion to Ukraine every 3 days.
Yeah.
And then next it's like, and maybe we should get the like rat poison out of like the cereal. And you're like,
Yeah.
that is a form of like self-love. You start to go, maybe we should. Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe you shouldn't be able to do like pharmaceutical ads on commercials targeted at kids.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah,
yeah, that's not a half bad idea too. Maybe we
yeah,
should just drill the oil that we have.
yeah.
Maybe it's
Maybe we
okay.
should make new. Maybe we should make new refineries. Maybe we should maybe we should. I
It's
don't know.
it's
Have
not
cars that work. Like maybe we should it's
it's
all
not the
terrible.
50s anymore. You don't get to just do nothing and have a 9 to 5 job. Why not? That if we figured that out in the 50s, why can't we do that again now? Nobody
Yeah.
said 9 to 5 job and have a mansion. They just said, yeah, you work a 9 to 5 job and you can buy a house
So you can buy a three
and live
two.
it
So you can buy a three
and
two in
live
suburbia,
a
raise your
good
three
life.
kids, and be done with it.
You can enjoy Christmas and the summers and Nobody's saying that you're
And
entitled to a
coach little league and all that stuff. Like we can have those things
basic
again.
enjoyments.
Yes.
And that's what I think we're starting to do is I remember seeing a meme like right after Trump won in 2016, and I think it's now applicable more than ever. But it's America just found its balls again, and the rest of the world has no idea what to do. And that's what it kind of feels like is like we're coming out of this hypnosis of like America isn't bad. It's okay to fucking be awesome. It's okay to love like the red, white, and blue. It doesn't make you a dipshit jingoist to say, yeah, you know what? From sea to shining, I do love this country. I do like what it stands for.
Yeah.
And it's
Or what
starting
it
to,
stood for. And
yeah,
I do realize that we have many a sin that we have to expiate, but we can
yeah,
do this. So let's start. But we can't do that until we accept the fact that we've made these mistakes, and then realize that the whole purpose of destroying the U.S. is itself a psychological operation by people who want to control you,
hmm
who don't believe in the sovereignty of humanity. Like they don't believe in sovereign, they believe in their sovereignty, but you're all tax cattle.
yeah,
And you know what? No, we're going to take all of your wealth from you that you stole from us, and we're going to rebuild the fucking world. And that's what Trump said when he went to Davos this morning. And that was more impressive than his inauguration speech. What Trump did this morning at Davos was the biggest red ass beatdown of a bunch of would be oligarchs I have ever seen. I don't know if we haven't covered this yet, but he did a version of his inauguration speech at Davos. And then during the Q&A, ready? Like, took Brian fucking
oh, yeah, no,
Moynihan.
no, yeah, you said it earlier, yeah,
Yeah.
Bank of America guy, yeah,
Unfucking believable, dude. Like, I mean, I'm just like, yeah, this is where we are. You're not going to debank conservatives because they have a gun business. Like, fuck you. Like, you're not going to do an end run around the Constitution and around all this stuff by saying, oh, well, they're using all these proto-libertarian arguments. And oh, by the way, you libertarians in the audience need to get your shit together because you're being used as a means by which to destroy your own fucking country, which you don't even believe in. I'm like, I want to get rid of America as a functional philosophical anarchist naturally, where we trust each other and we like each other and we worked out and we're all psychologically balanced to the point where we can work out our differences peacefully. We can't do that right now because we got a whole bunch of fucking people running around with fake money buying tomorrow's weapons at yesterday's prices with your fucking labor and then setting you against each other. Fuck AOC. She's irrelevant. The best thing everybody could do right now is never, ever, 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 ever again, ever retweet anything that AOC puts out there or The View or Rachel fucking Maddow or any of them. Take their voice away from them. Let them scream into the void because it's the only revenue they get. Do you want to be part of that? You're feeding the outrage culture by keeping these vampires alive. These people are dead. They're the undead media. The best way to destroy them is to ignore them. Period. Because that clique, that 15 or 20 seconds that you spend or a minute you spend watching some dumb shit that fucking Rachel Maddow put out to get you outraged, to get you to click on for no other reason. She doesn't believe a goddamn thing that comes out of her mouth, that bitch. Other than I can make conservatives crazy. That's all she's doing. And you're falling for it. No. I'm making it like a rule. I'm going to make it like I have a free speech zone, except that no more Rachel Maddow. Like, I don't want to see another fucking Rachel Maddow video anywhere on our private server. Why? Because it's a waste of our time.
And you're
Don't
giving her
pollute the
money.
fucking threads with that bullshit. We have better things to talk about.
I would say it's, and we'll wrap it up because I do have to run in a minute.
Sure.
Is kind of like two things. Number one, it would be that meme where it's like, be the American that the Japanese think you are. And it's like all these like I guess like animes or maybe it's the Chinese because it's like they're supposed to
Mm,
be painting you in an evil light, but it's all just badass. It's like there's
mm.
this one where it's like an aircraft carrier, but it's like as a kaiju, and it's like American imperialism with the Statue of Liberty and like fighter jets, and you're looking at it you're like this is hard as fuck. And it's like be the American that they think you are, or it's like every American's like jawbone ripped with like a machine gun and a hot blonde. It's like be the person they think you are, because that's awesome. And the other one where I'd say it's Neil deGrasse Tyson, that faggot, like a couple months ago when he was on some show and it may have been Colbert or something, where he's like, Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. He's like, I'll shoot that down. He's like, what's the return on investment? He's like, I'll tell you how that goes. You'll walk into a meeting and say, we're going to Mars. And they'll say, how much does it cost? And they'll say, $5 trillion. And they'll go, what's the return on investment? You go, I'll put an American flag. And like everyone claps. And it's like, hey, man, no. Like America is going like, no, we're going to go build a skyscraper on Mars. Why? Fuck you. That's why. Like, that is America. Is like,
And all the investment that went into coming up with those
oh, and by
technologies,
the way,
and
which will produce wealth, by the way. It's like the space race did.
right,
But
I
it's
like
just
that
like
won't like that wouldn't produce well.
that's the
The other
epitome of being against it. It's like, what's the return on investment? It's like we're gonna build a Statue of Liberty on Pluto with a fucking McDonald's there. Why? Because. And when you know
because
what? It's gonna be guarded by an aircraft carrier. Eat a fucking dick. Like that's America. Just like and by the way, it will produce wealth along the way, but it's like, why are you doing it? It's like fucking eagle scream. That's why. Like just
because not just America but the entire world, they want us to lead. Everybody
yes.
wants to look up, not down. They're trying to tell you to look down. So, hey, how about this, folks? If you're depressed, if you're worried about this, Tommy said, be the America that Japan thinks we are. You remember also, be half the person your dog thinks you
That's
are,
the other quote is yeah, be half the person your dog thinks you are. Is like be
because your dog thinks you're the greatest thing on earth.
yeah, live up to it.
Live up to that every day. I
Yeah.
have to leave this office after we get done with this, and my dog is going to accost me, and she's going to look up at me adoringly, and I'm going to have to stop and take 5 minutes and tell her how awesome she is
Mm-hmm.
while she reorients me about my day.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go do some other. I'm going to go do some other thing, and I'm going to consider that a day well done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm going to walk inside and I'm going to tell my wife that she's awesome. And then we're going to talk about what crazy, beautiful thing Trump just did. And then we're going to go on with our day. And we're going to, my daughter's going to come home from work and we're going to ask her how her day went. And it's going to be lovely.
Yeah.
And then I'll get up tomorrow
God
and
willing and do it
we'll
again.
do it all over again with a big fucking smile on my face. Because if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. And if you just go out and go be brilliant, that's your burden for go find one thing that you're brilliant at and go do it a little bit every goddamn day,
Mm.
and it'll be you'll be amazed at last month for the newsletter. I was looking for a quote. We always do a quote every month, and it was a quote by Patton that I found. And there's variations on this quote by Patton. He's like, "Don't tell people what to do. Show them where to go, and you'll be amazed at what they come up with."
Be surprised at their ingenuity. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what Trump is doing right now, and that's what they can't stand.
Yeah.
They're so filled with bile. They're so filled with envy. They're so filled with with envy is the word. They want to destroy everything good and beautiful in the world because
Yeah.
they don't see the world. They see the world as empty and it cannot fill the holes in their hearts. Fuck them,
Yeah.
you know.
No, it should be the American fucking propaganda piece they think you are. Like,
And
exactly.
then be and do that joyfully
Mm-hmm.
as a leader for the rest of the world because we're still the only nation on earth where we are superior to the governments.
Hmm.
We, the people, ordain and enshrine this Constitution and give it these limited fucking powers. Like it or not, Davos, England, France, fuck you, and fuck you. That's what they're trying to destroy. That's why they want Americans to hate themselves because they want to validate the idea that we need to be led by our betters. That's what trust the science is. That's what DEI fat ass Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying. That's what all these motherfuckers are saying. Boil it all down. That's what they're saying. Fuck you. You don't own me. And always ask yourself that basic question. If you don't own yourself, who does?
We'll wrap it up. I'll even send you the video. It's this British guy, and he's talking about American weapons system, and he seems a little more left leaning, but not like insufferable. He's talking about the Cold War, and he's like, in order to have Polaris submarines, and he's like to have one of these submarines with one of these each of these submarines had like 10 of these missiles. Each of these missiles carried 10 nukes, and he was like, one of these could like remove the entire Soviet Union. Two could remove the Soviet Union and China, and then maybe you want to have a third in case one of them is broken down, maybe a fourth if you're really feeling paranoid, because it is the 50s. We haven't invented satellites yet. We have to invent the satellites that will guide the missiles that we haven't invented yet, that will put on the submarines that we haven't invented yet. And then he pauses and he goes, the United States built 41, and then just starts. And I was just like, and it's like the 50s. It's like, none of this is possible. 41. And then you're just like, I fucking love this place. Like,
Wait, and they did it with slide rules.
oh yeah. No, it's like in the 50s. It's like one for the
And they
Soviet
did it
Union,
with
one for
slide
China,
rules.
a third in case one of them is down, and a
Right.
fourth if you're really feeling some Cold War paranoia. The States built 41, and then like the flag drops and the thing starts, and I'm just like, I fucking love. Whereas other people might be like the decadence of the West, I'm like fucking like Jesus on a skateboard with an American flag behind him. I'm like, that's fucking fuck you. That's what. Yeah, we're gonna go to Mars, and then we're also gonna go to fucking a different solar system. Eat a dick, Tyson. So that's how I feel. It's just like that's what America should be. Where you just hear that, you go, 40, what the fuck? And it's just
There
like,
you go, Tom.
there you go. No, we're gonna.
I've been waiting for this podcast with you for
Ugh.
2 years. Honestly, I have been. I've been waiting for that day. I've been hoping that if I was right about everything, that this would happen, and I'd get this out of you one of these days.
Just
Yeah,
fucking
exactly. Like,
literally just it's that's what it
you
is.
know,
Yeah,
like oh, these
fuck them
fuck
all,
these. And
guys.
and by the way, so
Yeah.
yeah, and the whole Nazi salute thing was clearly that was the only thing they had after that. Their shit is weak and they're done.
Yeah, and there's definitely a vibe shift now when people are like, he did a Nazi salute, and a lot of people are like, yeah, it was pretty cool.
It
People are
was
like,
kind of cool.
wait, what? Like,
Was he
yeah,
wearing Hugo Boss when he was doing
yeah,
it?
I don't give a fuck, dude. Eat a fucking dick. We're throwing you all out. Fuck off. Project 2025 was a joke. It's gonna be so much worse. Like that's what it is. Everybody
All right,
listen,
man.
go to the description, follow Tom on Twitter, go to his blog, his Substack, his podcast, his Patreon. All the links are in there. Tom, I love you, brother. Thanks for coming on here, man. You're good people. Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Tommy. Take care now.
Guys, thank you for watching.